Hello class, this is Professor D, and here we're going to spend a little bit of time on the first couple chapters for the travel and tourism class. The specific title of the textbook is Tourism, the Business of Hospitality and Travel, 5th edition, by Roy A. Cook, Kathy Hugh, and Joseph Marca. Okay. Today is February 2nd, 2014. Today is the Super Bowl, so I'm wearing my orange to support Denver Broncos. But before I go to the game, to go watch the game, I wish I was going to the game, I'm going to spend a little bit of time with you going through some of the chapters and some of the specific things that you should be focusing on. So, starting with Chapter 1, this is the Introduction to the World's Largest Industry, Tourism. And in any chapter, I want you to focus in on the highlighted areas, on the facts and figures, and that's where you're really going to get the best information for preparing for quizzes and for tests. It talks about getting a career in tourism, it talks about what tourism is. The reality is that the tourism industry is massive. It is more than just travel agencies. It is airlines. It is lodging. It's inclusive of restaurants. Of course, the hospitality industry is a bigger umbrella than tourism, but think of it from the perspective of a traveler. A traveler needs to go, wants to go somewhere in the world. When they are planning their trip, they can use a travel agent through that travel agent or through themselves if they want to book everything online themselves. They are going to book their airline travel. They could take a boat, of course, but it will take a little bit longer. They might book a train. They might book a car through a car rental service. They may take a bus, especially if they're in the United States. Buses are very popular. But they're going to find some way to get there, and that's a part of tourism. Then there's the lodging aspect. Once they get to their destination, where are they going to stay? They're going to either book a hotel, they could book an extended stay situation, which is also through most hotel chains, or they might use a service like VRBO or Airbnb.com. I encourage you to check out airbnb.com if you're not familiar with that service, and that allows them to stay in somebody's home. And personally, I rent out our home from time to time, especially when we're going on a trip. It almost pays for our trip to use Airbnb. So we're big fans of Airbnb. It's peer-to-peer service, and just as people stay in our homes, we stay in other people's homes. You seem to get a little bit better situation. It's not always cheaper than a hotel or a motel, but it comes with certain aspects which are nice, which is you're staying in somebody's home. So if you want to play cards, there's probably a set of cards somewhere. If you want to cook, there's usually a kitchen. Well, I would say there's always a kitchen. Well, I've had a couple of exceptions. But most often you can use the place like your own. And it's great if you really want to get a sense for the neighborhood because you are living in a neighborhood. That's enough. You can check it out on your own. Furthermore, you figured out how you're going to get there, you figured out where you're going to stay, then you need to do other things. You need to eat, you need to be able to shop. All these aspects can be pulled into tourism. You need to be entertained. Where are you going to go? What are you going to do? And so those are some of the things that they describe as being part of the tourism model. Going further, and there's a couple of good figures. Figure 1.1, the blind men in tourism, is a fun graphic that talks about the tourism industry. Figure 1.2 talks about the integrated model of tourism with the travelers in the middle. And if you're looking through your textbook while I'm talking, it's probably the easiest thing to do. On page 9 of this textbook, I really enjoy the milestones in the development of tourism, table 1.1. And there's certain things that will jump out in terms of when certain things were developed. You have Marco Polo, you have the first space tourist Dennis Tito, which I've created an entire video on. You have Henry Ford. You have all these little things. I don't know why they put Mark Zuckerberg in the launch of Facebook as a tourism milestone, but only time will tell. Going further, you have the eras: Empire era, Middle Ages and Renaissance era, the Grand Tour era. And what it really talks about, the essence of these eras, is the fact that as technology increased, so did the ability for people to get around. As countries became more civilized, and when there was one government or one power that controlled things, it made it easier for people to travel from place to place. Such was the example of the Greek Empire and the Roman Empire, which allowed people that were Roman subjects to travel from place to place to place within the Roman Empire. And that was a good time. When we fast forward to the Grand Tour era, which is between 1613 and 1785, people started to amass wealth, and they would use that wealth to travel to different places. And it's important to remember that this was not a 5-day trip. These were in some cases a year trip for people to get away, to experience a completely different environment. For instance, if you lived in the United States, you might go to France for a year, or vice versa. Okay. When you go to the mobility era, this really is the exclamation point for technology and the ability to take boats and to use motorized vehicles, trains, etc. Of course, with the advent of planes, people could get from one country to another a lot quicker. And so the modern era really made things so much easier. I mean, nowadays when we think of 2014, we can get from one country to another in a matter of hours. And now they have a new plane. We used to have the Concorde, which if you're not familiar, you can look that up. But they've just unveiled a new plane that will get to Europe in several hours instead of 8 or 9 or 7 or 8 hours. So technology is continuing to increase, but of course they have to do it and be safe. So talk about the difference between business and professional, professional and leisure travel, personal versus business travel. And the main things to remember with that is that when you're traveling for yourself, hopefully you're traveling within a budget. You know how much you want to spend on travel. When you're traveling for your business, it is a little bit different because somebody else is picking up the tab. Now, that does not mean that you should go ahead and just spend a ridiculous amount of money, because that's not responsible. That's not fair to your company. However, there are certain expectations when it comes to business travel. If you are traveling with, or for the purpose of developing new business, and you have to go visit clients, you're not going to take your clients to McDonald's. You're not going to take your clients to Applebee's. Now, if they request it, that's different. But for the most part, you will want to wine and dine them a little bit. Now, that doesn't mean you need to stay at a 7-star hotel. You could stay at an Airbnb. You could stay at a decent hotel that doesn't cost your company a lot of money if you're not going to be interacting with your clients there. But every company is going to have their own, or should have their own, travel protocol. What is expected? What is the budget? How much money do you spend on yourself? How much money do you spend on your clients? You don't want to look cheap, but at the same time, if the travel expenditures of company personnel is extreme, it could really hurt the company. So that's something to consider. But when we're traveling for our own, or on our own budget, we want to spend a little bit more time finding the deals, and we're going to use sites like TravelZoo, and we're going to use Cheapo Air, and we're going to use Kayak. We're going to use Priceline. Priceline, by the way, owns Kayak. But we're going to use a lot of different tactics to get the better deals, whereas in a business environment, sometimes they don't spend that time looking for the deals. They are their own travel agents in some cases. So it really just depends on the situation. But that is a big difference. There is a good figure on page 14 that talks about the reasons for travel. 40% of travel is to visit friends or relatives, especially during holidays. Vacations for leisure is about 37%. Business or professional is about 20%. But that 20% means a whole lot more money to the travel industry because they're spending more money. We have certain restaurants, for instance, in New York City that are considered expense restaurants. These are restaurants that are more expensive, that are generally supported by companies that are entertaining clients, or they're doing interviews to try to woo potential candidates. So a lot of their money is spent on places like that. I have a friend who loves certain restaurants because that's where he gets to spend his company's money. And the restaurants are not mad about that. And then there's 3% that travel for other reasons. Table 1.2 on page 15 talks about 50 places of a lifetime. These are places that people want to go as part of kind of your bucket list of places to go in the world. Of course, there's going to be places like Paris. There's going to be certain things like the pyramids. Of course, yeah, there's Paris. There's a lot of places that interest people. So going forward, they talk about the different maps. We have reading maps, which I find interesting. If you're not very good with geography, this is a good way of getting better with geography. And of course, some of our projects will help you with that. But reading maps is a good skill to have. I'm just going to skip through some of these pages because it's a little bit not so important to what we're going to be focusing in on for the class. But if you're going to be a travel agent, you should know a little bit about the climate for where you're sending your people. You do not want the kind of situation where your clients are unprepared for where they're going. If they're going somewhere cold, they better pack some thermals. If they're going somewhere sunny, they better pack some sunscreen. They talk about marketing on page 23. And they talk about the marketing mix on page 24. Marketing mix is something that I address in my marketing classes, and the marketing mix is made up of what we call the 4 Ps, which are product, price, place, and promotion. So the product for a travel agency are perhaps the packages that they sell clients. The price is what you're going to charge your clients for that product. Place is where the clients can purchase that package. It could be in a brick and mortar travel agency. Brick and mortar meaning brick is brick. Mortar is what you put the bricks together. So it's a physical place where somebody can go and purchase this package. But the place could also refer to online ability. So if you're familiar with travelzoo.com, then that's a place that you can go and purchase packages. You don't have to go to a physical place. Everything's done online. It's e-commerce. So that could be an example of place. And then promotion is obviously how you get it out there to your customers and your clients. If you have a great package and you want to get it out to your clients, then you may send it as part of an email. You may send it as a Twitter feed. You may post it on Facebook, you name it. Promotion is promotion. It might be as simple as putting an ad in a paper, but again, it depends on who your target audience is. We all find out about things in different ways, and that's why no marketing plan can be the kind that only uses one channel. You can't only use Facebook because that means you're going to miss all these other people. So 4Ps are important to know. If you've never taken a marketing class, and if you don't plan on it, at least understand that part of it. They talk about management and finance. They talk about accounting. And again, these are all aspects of the tourism industry. Okay, you can't just have a travel agency and expect people to walk in the door. You need to manage the process. You need to have a marketing plan. You need to understand the dollars and cents. Travel agencies are having a difficult time now. There is a recent article by about Thomas Cook agencies where they laid off a ton of people in Great Britain because, frankly, people aren't going to travel agencies anymore. They're not buying packages through those agencies. They're going online, and that's where they're getting their packages. So they kind of have to reinvent themselves, and it's a difficult process. Let's see. They talk a little bit more about the chapter, and then at the end, pages 30-31, you have some discussion questions, you have a glossary. What I encourage you to do is to take a look at the glossary, and if there's something that you're not familiar with whatsoever, you should go back and find it in the chapter and understand it as much as you can. And again, I didn't cover everything, but this is just a little bit of the chapter that I'm focusing on as the professor and what you really focus on. So remember the facts, the figures, the shaded areas, any stories that you see in the textbook, read them, understand them, be able to retell them, hint, hint, and the back of the chapter will help you to review. So that's enough about Chapter 1. I'm going to do a separate video for Chapter 2. See you soon.